So we're all probably thinking the same thing by now. The summer shutdown is here, there's no F1 and time isn't exactly flying by. And aside from a small drip feed of news from the F1 world, all it seems you can do is sit and think about the rest of the season ahead and also 2025. And maybe indulge in a bit of sim racing if that's your cup of tea. By the way, it seems loads of people are playing F1 Manager right now, and if this is one of you, please let me know in the comments what it's like. Now, following on from the previous video, a few of your comments somewhat stirred the imagination and led me to think of a few more what-if wishlist scenarios for the rest of 2024. There's still a hell of a lot to be decided, and some of these things still could lead to 2024 being one of the best in recent years. So let's not beat around the bush, let's jump straight in and look at some scenarios that I think most of the F1 community would like to see in the second half of 2024. Okay, so let's open this up with a situation which is already quite spicy on its own, and if it does happen, could lead to some serious ramifications in 2025. And it is for Carlos Sainz to show Ferrari that they have made a mistake by letting him go. Now, from the perspective of someone who's a Williams supporter, it's going to be great and also very interesting to see how Sainz performs next to Albon. However, Sainz is a driver who I have always wanted to do well, and it's fantastic to see him succeed. However, there is no debate that in the short term, Ferrari have ultimately given him his best chance at success so far in Formula 1. He's been a great servant to Maranello, fulfilling a role which is somewhat difficult alongside Charles Leclerc. Sainz isn't a number 2 to Leclerc by any means, but we know who the Scarlet Red spotlight is officially focused on the most. Now, Ferrari were very clear in their decision opting for Hamilton over Sainz. Something that has divided the F1 community but still isn't a clear-cut right or wrong decision. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But from a business perspective, I think Ferrari have made the right decision because the amount of merch they'll be selling, new interest from sponsors, general commercial stuff, and stock market fidgy-widginess. But from a sporting perspective, I do wonder if Ferrari might have made the wrong decision. Now, of course, if it all turns out well and it is a good decision, that's totally fine. But despite this level of star value that Hamilton will bring to Ferrari, the partnership of Leclerc and Sainz, it does deliver, especially when the car is good. It's a partnership which is fairly low maintenance, and aside from perhaps McLaren and Mercedes, Ferrari maybe have the third best lineup on the grid right now. But I mentioned there when the car is good, and the problem is Ferrari haven't had a good car for a little while now. So with Sainz walking out of the door at the end of the season, what we want him to do is ultimately show Ferrari this is what you could have had. And actually now it's up to Sainz to show us that if he is that top tier driver that's been given a raw deal, or if he's a mid tier that had a run at the front and is now going to find equilibrium in the midfield in 2025. Now, as I said, their car has fallen behind somewhat, but if after the summer break they managed to sneak a win or two, maybe a few more podiums, what a message that would be to Fred Vasseur. Maybe even Pip Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship standings. After all, they are only separated by 15 points currently, a gap that 3 or 4 races could easily sort out. So what a send-off that would be for Sainz, for him to say, alright, you've made your decision, that's fine. Now hold my orange juice while I go and beat my teammate and my replacement for next season. And it's not outside the realms of possibility either, because Charles Leclerc, who is fantastically quick, for some bizarre reason, he is also just so catastrophically unlucky. So this does give Sainz this perfect opportunity to end the season on a high note, specifically if the car is good, maybe snatch a win or two, a good haul of podium positions, and also bag a load of points at the same time, allowing him to beat Leclerc in the standings and confidently stride out of the door at Maranello. And whilst he's doing it, write his phone number on Fred Vasseur's arm and say, give me a call sometime, drop the mic, jump in a taxi and say, Oxfordshire, per favore. And then just let Ferrari reap the whirlwind of whatever they sow in 2025. Now, this next one could be considered to be a little bit strange because of the light the media has been putting on them, and also my criticising in the past. But the second thing on this wish list is for Alpine's 2024 season to have a happy ending. And I'm not talking about pace on track or performance in the Constructors' Championship. It actually looks like right now that Alpine can score points decently when they want to, depending on the circuits. What I'm talking about is that the current disarray, negativity and uncertainty that surrounds the team comes to an end, and so that their future looks secure. Because right now, everything is up in the air and generally things aren't really looking very good. So what does a secure future look like? Well, it's knowing what your driver lineup is, who your team principal is going to be, who your title sponsor is going to be, who's going to supply your engines, all these sort of things. And yes, I know Alpine have appointed Oliver Oakes as team principal, but given their record, and I was pretty convinced that Bruno Famin was going to be the guy for them moving forwards, Anything could happen come 2025. They might even have a totally different name and identity for the start of next year. From what I understand, the BWT sponsorship may not be renewed, and that the Alpine name is just associated with failure, so why not start with a fresh sheet of paper? Now, it's very easy to say, ugh, Alpine, they're rubbish, their car is useless, they go through team principles like fresh croissants. Incompetence, ugly car, everything about the team is just unlikable. But let's not forget, this is just the current incarnation of Team Enstone. Hopefully this is just a blip, and I'm sure that it can't get any lower than this. Whatever you want to call them, Alpine, Renault, Team Enstone, this is the team with a rich heritage in Formula One. They have a history, and to be honest, I feel sorry for the regular men and women at the team who have been messed around with an uncertain future. So with the rest of 2024 playing out, just in the short term, I would quite like to see Alpine confirm their driver lineup pretty soon. Perhaps with Jack Doohan, but it looks like they might need to bring in some money from elsewhere, so they might need to go down that pay driver road. But either way, finally get the team in some stable water where they can restock, repair and rebuild. And also part of this wish list is for an announcement that they will be consigning the Alpine name to the history books come 2025. Okay, so it's a car brand with its loyal followers, but for the rest of the world, it is just a label for mismanagement and incompetence. The damage is done, and it is just time to let this name go. Now, of course, I support certain teams and drivers, but I am an F1 fan first, and to see a team like Alpine in a situation like they are now, it was funny at first, but now it's kind of getting a little bit sad. So what I want to see now is the sowing of the seeds for the rebirth of this team, in the style that McLaren are finally seeing the results of and Williams are sort of currently in the process of. We've shown that it can be done, the blueprint is there, they just need the right person to help carry this out. Now this next one on the list, I'm a little conflicted by, to be honest. Initially, I thought a great thing to see, and something that would already add to an awesome 2024 season would be a solid battle for second place in the Drivers' Championship. Now, whilst Verstappen's lead might be a touch out of reach, I might be wrong, we potentially have an epic battle lined up for that second place just beneath him. With 7 drivers already scoring wins this season, who else is going to add to their tally? Might we even see any more Grand Prix winners? Can Norris extend his gap from third place? Can Charles Leclerc rediscover his form? Or can Oscar Piastri just storm past both of them? And this is what I'm on about. 8 drivers on the grid have the means to win Grand Prix right now. So a grind it out, 0 team orders, winner takes all battle would be just what the doctor ordered. Right now it's all about the car's upgrades and how they react so absolutely and delicately with each circuit. From what we've seen so far, a car can be like a duck to water on one circuit and then like a pigeon to water on the other. But this is where the confliction comes in, because I did say in a previous video that I wanted to see a solid battle for the Constructors' Championship. Because aside from Red Bull, if we continue to see the wins spread out between the McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari drivers, it means that all these teams will start to take points off each other, leading to Red Bull getting saved by the bell in Abu Dhabi. Now, if McLaren are to make a solid push for the Constructors' title, then Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri need to start trading wins and strong podium places at every Grand Prix before the end of the season. McLaren will need to pull away from Mercedes and Ferrari and really start to build a gap if they are to catch Red Bull in the Constructors' standings. Can they do this with the car alone? Absolutely they can. Can they do this though when strategy and tactics are thrown into the mix? I don't think they're quite there yet. And so I realised here I am basically wanting to have my cake and eat it. I want a huge cluster of race winners and a fight for the Constructors' Championship, and I sense that unfortunately that is impossible, or improbable, one of those anyway. So I'm revamping my earlier statement to say that I genuinely want Oscar Piastri to do enough to secure second place in the driver standings. And this can only lead to good things. A weekly trade-off between him and Lando will enable McLaren to catch Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. And if Oscar comes out on top and seals second in the driver standings, well, this is just going to light a fire underneath Lando Norris, who is going to come out swinging in 2025. Well, that's if he is the driver that everyone says he is. So potentially there, it's best of both worlds. A Constructors' Championship push from McLaren, fueled by a battle between their drivers that could also rip the team apart. So we're nearly there, the Dutch Grand Prix is soon, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Are there any glaring omissions? What's on your wish list? Let me know what you'd like to see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe as always. I'm Paul, and I'll see you later. Cheers.